the baby will come out. Right? So this is how from fertilization till birth, the process look like. Now in this figure, if we see, so in the uterus, first the ovulated egg will fuses with the sperm, that is fertilization. Then a zygote is formed, then 2 cells, 4 cells. See, you have the day number. So on day 2, there will be 2 cells. On day 3, these 2 cells will become 4 cells. And on day 4, they become more number of cells. And that stage is called morula. And now the next stage is blastocyst, as I told you. So the inner cell mass will be there. And then day 7, this blastocyst has to implant. So until that time, until the blastocyst stage, there will be no implantation. So what is implantation? Whatever the embryo which is formed, that should go and bind or fixed to a particular position in the endometrium. So what is endometrium? Endometrium is a layer which will be present in the inner surface of the uterus. So every month it will form, and suppose if there is no implantation of embryo, that will go off in the form of menstruation. So but whenever this embryo forms, okay, this embryo goes and fixes in the endometrium. So therefore the menstruation will stop as soon as pregnancy will be confirmed. Okay, so now this endometrium, it provides nutrients to the growing embryo, and it will try to like sustain the embryo. Okay, so there will be some implantation failures at any stage. If there is any failure, that can result in the miscarriage. Okay, so once the implantation happens, then the next stages of placenta development, all this will takes place. So it is again a different science, and if we study in deep, so that will be a big subject. So just remember, these are the stages which are involved from fertilization till birth. Now, so what is the traditional approach? So here, so previously, like it is not advisable like to go to IVF as soon as they're planning for baby, if couples. Okay, so sorry, there is some problem in the slide, but I'll try to explain. So even like if the couple are trying for baby, planning for baby, still doctors don't suggest IVF immediately or any artificial reproductive techniques immediately. They will ask the couples to wait and watch. Okay, so of course it depends on the urgency and importance. So rather than urgency, it is the importance. Is it really necessary? If both the partners are healthy, then no need to go for the artificial techniques, right? So how relevant it is, how important it is. So that is one thing. So there are different, like research suggests that in first year after uh, planning baby, so this much of chance of successful pregnancy. Then in second year, it may reduce. And third year, like that, it may reduce, or some people naturally conceive on first year, second year, third year, and that is quite normal. Okay, the percentages of success will differ. But in some cases, like recurrent miscarriages, like even after trying for so many times, and still there is some problem during implantation or placentation, or there is any anatomical problem or genetic problems. So there are some, like if there are any predisposed conditions, only then doctors suggest to go for this artificial reproductive techniques. When the patients get frustrated, okay, they fed up of all the treatments, only then they should go. Okay. And especially why this IVF, only nowadays we are listening to this IVF or any other artificial reproductive techniques. In olden days, we don't have all this. Of course, this is because of advancement of science. But at the same time, it is due to the conditions which the couples are developing. Because patients are getting married at an older age. Okay, that is also like common because owing to the social or economic or educational different factors. So nowadays everybody is career oriented and they want to be financially independent and they are planning for the babies, like for their future. So all these things matters, right? So when the couples get settled and then they will get married and then they will plan for family. So by the time they will have, the age will be advanced. So that is one factor why like more number of IVF cases are increasing nowadays. And second thing is women's biological clock is restricted when compared to men. Okay, so because female babies, they will born with number of eggs which are sufficient for the lifetime. Okay, eggs means not the matured one, but primordial germ cells will be there. Okay, so the number of eggs will be limited and the reproductive age will be limited. Okay, and therefore, and the as the age increases, the quality of egg also will reduce. And then when the quality reduces, the number of mutations increases in the egg. So that can affect the uh, child, okay, in future because of number of mutations. So that's why even nowadays we see more like diseases. Okay, so that is because of the advanced age and accumulation of number of mutations. So therefore, because of this also some people they are storing the eggs. Okay, so these are because of the conditions which are changed all over the world. It is not only restricted to a particular country also. Therefore, these techniques are helping such kind of couples. So what is IVF? So it is in vitro fertilization. That means the fertilization which is happening inside the body. So the same process is happening in lab. Okay. So the same technique, they are artificially under the influence of some hormones, the scientists are trying to artificially fertilize in vitro. In vitro means in lab. In like we also usually call them test tube babies, but it is not in the test tube, but it is like in the artificial conditions, the fertilization process is taking place. So it has 4 steps. First is superovulation, egg collection, in vitro fertilization, and embryo transfer. So it requires 6 visits to the clinic. Okay, and no hospitalization is needed. It is a daycare procedure. So first thing is, the first step when a couple approaches the clinics, IVF clinics, and they want to perform IVF, first thing is the doctor will check for the quality and like if everything is normal or is there any health complication, like if there is regular menstruation in the woman. So like that, they will check everything for the quality and semen analysis in men. So the problem can lie in both men or women. It is not that only women had some problem or like that. So they will check both. And once everything is normal, if there is some problem, they will give the treatment first to rectify the problem. If there is no problem, everything is all right. So the first step is super ovulation. First thing is they will give hormones, which are gonadotropins, the natural hormones. There are recombinant preparations are also there, but they are quite expensive. Okay, but they both have the same, they work like similarly. Okay, then down regulation with buserelin, and this is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Okay, and like that they will give different hormones. Okay, based on, like, first they will check the condition of the woman, and then they will give the hormones so that they will produce more number of eggs. So why they have to collect more number of eggs? Usually in the normal cycle, during normal menstruation, only one egg will be released per month, but per cycle, sorry. So, but here they want many number of eggs to increase the chance of success, right? So if it is only one egg and that attempt fails, so again, it is an expensive technique. So again, the couple has to bear all the expenses, and even it is physically, mentally, it is a challenge. So therefore, to increase the chance of success, they will collect more number of eggs. So they will, once they give hormones, they will monitor follicular growth, how the ovary is responding, how the follicles are growing by ultrasound scans on day 3, 10, 12, 14, like that. Then sometimes estradiol levels also will be checked in the blood. So like this, they will look for the follicles. So once from the follicles, eggs will be released. So once the number of follicles develop, then the eggs will be released. Then they will, the second step is they will collect the eggs through vaginal ultrasound guidance. So they will look for the ultrasound, and through which they will remove the eggs. And it is not a surgical procedure. They won't cut anything or like that. Okay, there will be equipment through which they will remove the eggs. So this is how they will perform. So you can see here. So this is the ovary with multiple follicles, and by looking into the ultrasound probe, so there will be a like a stick-like thing which will have a probe, and it will have a camera. So by looking at, we can actually, they will insert it through vagina, and that will be visible in the monitor. So the movement of the probe. So through which they will identify the follicles, that is eggs, and they will remove. And once they remove the follicles, they will place them in a Petri plate. Okay, in the proper media. So as we have discussed in the previous classes about cell culture media, all these things. So here also similar way, for these techniques, we'll have a specific media for maintenance of the eggs, right? Eggs or sperm. So this is how a oocyte or egg looks like. Okay, so this is the polar body and zona pellucida. So already we have discussed about fertilization. No, I think so. In the during fertilization, what happens? This sperm comes and fuses with the egg, right? So around the egg there is a layer called zona pellucida. So what this zona pellucida will do? It will stop the entry of multiple sperms. So only one sperm will fertilize the egg at a time. So this is because to like to prevent the the entry of multiple sperms. And if multiple sperms they fertilize the egg, then that cannot develop because the genetic material will be in number of copies, and that cannot survive. Okay, and once a sperm fertilizes the egg, then immediately the zona pellucida will get hardened and the receptors for the sperm will be removed so that no other sperm will enter into the egg. So like that there will be some changes which will take place. So that is the layer around the egg. Then once the eggs are collected, then third one is insemination. So here sperm is added together with the egg. Okay. So meanwhile, they will check for the motility of sperms, number of sperms. So all these things will be checked, quality. Then if everything is fine, that sperms will be added to the egg in the incubator. And they will be kept under in vitro conditions, like they will be similar to the in vivo conditions. So whatever the supplements are required for the fertilization, so all the supplements will be given in the form of media, and the conditions, temperature, pH or moisturizer, the moisture content, then everything will be maintained in the incubator. And so that incubator is very, very important because that is initiating the fertilization process, right? The next is embryo transfer. Then they will check every day, and once the fertilization is successful and the division process initiates, and then here we don't find a single embryo because they have collected multiple eggs. So we can see number of eggs, number of embryos formed. Okay. And then through a non-surgical procedure, again same way how they have removed the egg, in the same way they will insert or transfer back into the uterus. Okay. So this can be on day 2, 3 or 5 like that. So based on the division of the cells. So this is how
excuse me, ma'am, there are many fertilized eggs, ma'am?
Yeah, many embryos will be there.
Okay.
Because they have collected many eggs, right? So every egg will be fertilized with a sperm. So yes, you can see many number of embryos. So all will be inserted usually. Means suppose there are more than required. I told you in the stem cell class, I think. If more than the required amount of embryos are there, that embryos are utilized for embryonic stem cell research, right? So there will be some minimum number of embryos that has to be inserted back, like 2, 3, and that will be inserted back into the uterus. Okay, this is to increase the rate of success, right? That's why if you see any IVF couple, most, not everyone, but they will have twins or triplets like that. Okay, because every embryo may get success, right? Sometimes if at least some of them are failed, at least one will be successful. That's why they will keep many embryos, right? So this is how on day 3, where 8 cell states will be there. So you have zona pellucida and it will form a blastomere like that. So in this IVF cycle, so once they insert the embryos back, they have to take some precautions until the embryo get implanted, right? So once, like as for the normal pregnancy, like they will have to wait for 3 months at least to check whether the embryo is stable and the baby is getting heartbeat, all these things, right? So any pregnancy, doctors will ask to wait for at least 3 months so that the pregnancy will be confirmed, not just confirmed, but it gets stabilized. Okay, in the same way, once 3 months are finished, first trimester is completed, then uh, they will, whoever the woman who underwent IVF, they can go to gynecologist like a normal pregnancy, like women with a normal pregnancy, like every checkups, everything will be similar. Okay. And even they can have, and there will be some myths like IVF means only C-sections, like that. No, everything will be natural. Even they can have normal deliveries also. So like that, they don't need any bed rest. Okay. Like there are some myths which are associated with the IVF, like you should not cough, like that. So it is not like, it is similar to a normal pregnancy, but only thing is the fertilization has happened in an artificial environment. That's it. Okay. And other than that, of course, because if the couple went to the IVF, if there is any health complication in women, then she has to take the precaution. And then she has to take bed rest or necessary precautions which doctor suggests. But otherwise, no need of taking any bed rest, all these things. And but it is a matter of luck, of course, because not every embryo can get stabilized, and so it can, there are chances of failure also. Okay. But it is not the patient's fault if she doesn't conceive. So it is neither the doctor's fault nor the patient's fault. It is how the normal pregnancy also can get failed. So in the same way, IVF also can get failed. Okay, it's just the conditions that can change. Okay, and a woman cannot reject the embryo, right? So it is not like willfully nobody will reject, and nobody has that capacity to reject embryo. It is how her body responds to the embryo. Okay. So risks of IVF. So there can be no pregnancy. As I told you, it is a matter of luck also. And multiple pregnancies. So as every embryo may get successful, and there can be multiple chance of multiple pregnancies. And ectopic pregnancy means, ectopic means it is outside the uterus. So it is not at that position where the embryo has to grow, but it is somewhere else, like outside the embryo or any other position. And ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. So because of these hormones, not everybody reacts in a similar manner, right? So therefore, due to this hormonal treatment also, there can be development of this syndrome. The limitations of IVF. So there are very few medical risks which are associated. Mostly it will be safe only. Only thing is overuse of hormones. If a person undergoes 2 or 3 IVF cycles, then more usage of hormones, and that can cause any like side effects in the long run. But as such, there are no side effects. Major risks are financial and emotional. Rather than the health risks, there can be financial and emotional problems, because it will cost in some lakhs, maybe 1 lakh or 2 lakh, like that. Okay. Now it has become cheaper when compared to the olden days, but still it is somewhat costest technique. So in the middle class people, it will be very difficult to bear the expenses. And once they have undergone IVF, if it gets successful, then it's good. Like they will get satisfied. And if it is failed, so then it is definitely an emotional and as well as financial um, loss, we can call it. Yeah, somebody is asking question. Okay, what is ectopic pregnancy? It is nothing but the pregnancy which is happening anywhere outside the uterus. actually this embryo has to get attached to the endometrium and it has to implant, right? But it can happen somewhere else. Okay, so that is called as ectopic pregnancies. So usually they won't be successful, but if under treatment, if as suggested by the doctor, they can be successful. I'm not sure, but it is a complication, pregnancy complication. Okay. So other than this IVF, so there are some advanced fertilization techniques, that is intracytoplasmic sperm injection, then assisted hatching, blastocyst transfer, and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. So nowadays, like we can see everything like before birth only, like if there are any genetic defects, everything. So first is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So it is a micro injection, and here one egg and one sperm, they will get fertilized from one embryo. And here the sperm from men who are having testicular failure because of the anatomical problems or hormonal problems. So directly the sperm will be injected. So like this, you can see the sperm will be injected into the egg, so that so what happens in the normal fertilization? So whatever the sperm, I think we have all studied the structure of sperm in our 10th class itself, right? So it will have a head portion and a tail portion. In the head portion, we have acrosomes. So these acrosomes will have, acrosome is nothing but it is a lysosome, modified lysosome, and that will have the enzymes which are required for digestion of zona pellucida. So zona pellucida is a layer outside the egg. So this acrosome goes and digests this zona pellucida, and then it will release the genetic material of the sperm into the egg. And then they will form a fusion, and then they will form diploid stage, and then they will form the zygote. So that is how the fertilization takes place. So that process, if it is not happening naturally, then that is injected into the egg artificially to increase the chances of fertilization. The next type is blastocyst transfer. Here, till fifth stage, till day 5, these embryos are, that means the zygote is kept in the in vitro conditions till day 5. Please mute yourself, someone's microphone here. So it will become blastocyst stage. That means the blastula will be formed, the inner cell mass, trophoblast, everything will be formed. Then such kind of viable embryos, which are dividing, viable means which are dividing, which are live, okay, that will be transferred back into the uterus. So what are the advantages of blastocyst transfer is that the number of embryos transferred can be reduced without a risk in decline in pregnancy rates, and multiple pregnancies also will be reduced. So even multiple pregnancy is again a burden, right? Everybody cannot like like they won't have that financial capability to maintain these many children. So therefore, that is again a disadvantage of IVF. So to reduce that also, this blastocyst transfer is a good option. Then freezing and cryopreservation. That means nowadays the eggs are freezed, because like celebrities, all these things, if they don't want to get pregnant at particular age, they want to like become mothers at an advanced age, but the eggs will be declined. So what they will do, at younger age when they are healthy. So they will isolate the eggs which are healthy and they will preserve the eggs so that in future they will use these eggs for the in vitro fertilization technique. So here vitrification is nothing but we can store sperms, embryos, eggs, then ovarian tissue. So everything can be stored for the future purpose. So what is the promise of artificial reproductive technique? That means it is actually genuinely the couples who are unable to become parents. So only for them this has to be applied. Okay. So whatever the medical problem they are having, if they are unable to conceive, then these artificial reproductive techniques, they are promising techniques which helps these couples. And third party reproduction also can happen. That means embryo adaptation, donor eggs, surrogate uterus. That means if a woman cannot bear the baby, but otherwise she is having everything normal. So then another woman, foster woman, she can help, she can be a surrogate. She can hold the baby till 9 months and then she can give the birth. Okay, like that. So there are many techniques which are formed. So PGD, it is a genetic technology. So here, this is another artificial reproductive techniques. So here, PGD means pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Okay. So here, after the IVF cycle, so 8-cell embryo will be formed at day 3, and this embryo has to be subjected to biopsy. Okay. Then they will look for the fluorescence induced technique. So to check whether they have any genetic problems and whether that embryo can sustain. If are there any genetic problems, that means this is not compulsory for every embryo, but only in those couples who are having any history of family history of genetic diseases or any some serious conditions. So if they want to go for that, they can also go for this. Before implantation itself, they will check for the genetic screening. Okay. So this is how they isolate. Okay. Then, so here fluorescence in situ hybridization. So in situ means at the same site. So here they are not isolating DNA or like that. They are just taking the cell and at the same position, they are adding a fluorescent probe, which will go and bind to the probe DNA will go and bind to the normal genomic DNA or in which gene it has to go and check. So then if there is any problem, it will fluoresce. So based on the fluorescence, they will check is there any mutation or like that. So how the signals are interpreted? So evaluation slides with the fluorescence microscope. They will look at the nucleus using the DAPI filter. So DAPI is a stain which will go and stain the nucleus. So in the DAPI filter, they will add this DAPI dye and they will check for the fluorescence. And based on the signals, how much intensity of fluorescence is there, they will interpret the signals and they will, so here that probe, whatever the fluorescent probe, they will go and bind to only specific chromosomes. See many, some people, they will have the trisomy, like the diseases like Down syndrome, all these things. So if there is any history, they can go for that and they will go and bind to a particular chromosome. So we can know how many number of chromosomes are present. And if we see like, if we give pink color, it will go and bind to Y chromosome. Even for green, it will go for X. Even the gender also can be known by this technique, but it should be not misused. Okay. So this is the kit, how it looks like. So this is the normal blastomere, how it looks like, the fluorescence, how it is giving the signal. See here, the trisomy of 21 means here we can see the 3 copies. Like this, they will, in more detail, they will analyze actually in the system. So here, how the genomic hybridization. So you can see two chromosomes, each chromosome, 2 copies of each chromosome is having the same color. So like that, they will check how many number of copies are there. Then the another technique is called PCR, polymerase chain reaction. So that is also can be employed. So here to check the single gene actually. So in the polymerase chain reaction, what they will do, first they will isolate the DNA and they will sequence design primers which are specific for a particular site, and they will add deoxynucleotides, then a polymerase, tag polymerase, and this primers and buffer, everything in a tube, DNA. Then they will set a program so that this small amount of DNA which is selected, so that will be amplified, okay, into number of copies. So that amplified DNA will be subjected to analysis so that they will check whether there is any problem in particular. Then they can go for sequencing also. So we can actually see the sequence of the DNA which is there, and we can also identify the mutations which are present. That is the interpretation. So what are the indications for pre-implantation genetic diseases? Diagnosis. So first, who has to undergo? Like if there are any sex-linked genetic disorders like hemophilia, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, then if there are any chromosomal disorders like Down syndrome, trisomy 21, that means that if there are any 3 copies of chromosome 21, and in such cases, if they have already had the babies with the similar diseases, so they can go to this technique before conceiving another baby, because it is suffering for both the baby as well as the parents. Then single gene disorders, I told you, if you want to study a single gene, so we can go with the PCR, like thalassemia. Then older women doing IVF, they have to go for the screening of embryo for aneuploidies. If there are any mutations or any disorders, as I told you, advanced age will accumulate more number of mutations in the eggs. The quality of eggs will decrease and mutation rate will increase. Therefore, in such cases, advanced means here 40 years like that. Okay, above 40 years. If they want to go for IVF, they can go for the screening. The recurrent pregnancy loss because of any chromosomal anomalies. So if there are any like number of chromosomes, like a reduced number or more number of copies of chromosomes, or if the structural abnormalities, if there is any part of chromosome which is missing, the longer arm or shorter arm, so they can also, means some genes will be missed if a particular arm is missing. So in such cases, they can go for this screening. The next is cloning, another technique, which is reproductive cloning or therapeutic cloning. Then we can also go for, so cloning, we all know, like cloning means reproductive means if we want to go for production of offsprings, for reproduction. If it is therapeutic means only if we want to treat some disease. It is not that entire organism we are doing. It is for like changing a gene like that, like gene therapies. In such cases, we use that. Then embryonic stem cells. So this already in detail we have discussed in the previous class. So it can change the face of medicine. So stem cells, they can replace any damaged portion like organs or tissues or cells. So it will be very promising. And already a lot of research is going on regarding stem cells, but lots of research has to be done in the field of stem cells. India can be, if they continue the research, if more funds are released, it can lead the world in this field of research. And collaboration between IVF clinics and basic research labs. So by collaboration, they can perform this research. So as I told you, after, if there are any unused embryos, because I told you only certain, because if we keep every embryo also, if every embryo gets successful, the woman cannot bear those many number of babies. Only one or two or three, like that, it is fine. If more number of babies, there are cases where woman gives birth to 10, 11 also. Nowadays, if you see news in some other countries. But it is like every baby may not survive, and even the couple may not have the financial status to rear all these babies. So in such cases, they will decide how many number of babies they want. So if there are any excess embryos which cannot be used in IVF, that embryos can, from the IVF clinics, with the consent of couple, they can go give for the basic research labs where the researchers can perform research on these embryonic stem cells for future use. Okay. So here, she has the first test tube baby, Lucy. Okay. So, so in so this is a first case, okay, of test tube baby or IVF actually. So when this has happened, it became a headline, like it is a reproductive revolution. But now it has become a common technique, right? But there are some opinions, like always there will be two types of opinions for any scientific research. Some will oppose and some will support. So in the same way, so there are many advantages with IVF. So the technique is helping the couples. Everything is fine. And there is another opinion is, are we playing God? That means, are we going against the nature? So are there any rights, like for embryo, there are no rights for the embryo, unborn child? We are only looking for the rights of the couples or those who are like adults and also children. But before birth also, the embryo will have a life. So they will also have rights. And if we look for religious concern, religious point of view, of course, it is a sin to kill someone, kill a life, right? So that is almost every religion has this opinion. Then if you are not inserting some embryos, okay, then that means we are purposefully taking off the life. So, but when does the life begin? So that is another question. Is it from the fertilization, from the day of fertilization, or after some days, like after embryo is formed? So this also nobody can explain. So what is life, first of all? So these are like religious or spiritual concerns, but not the scientific things. So first thing is, when does the life begin? And what are the rights of an embryo? So can these embryos can be used for the research? Okay. And the cloning should cloning be allowed? So cloning means here what happens? So this can be misused also. So we can just produce the replica copies. So it is not a natural process, right? So every human being or every organism is unique. Nobody 100% resembles with their parents, neither with offsprings, neither with siblings. Every person or every animal is different in its own, right? But when it comes to cloning, everybody looks same. Genetically, everybody is same. All are like replica copies. So is this correct? So there are various discussions, debates which are happening. So are we creating human life? So this is again a different topic. Like some section of people, they are condemning this IVF. Of course, some people, they are just misusing this IVF. So though they don't have any medical condition, still they are going for the IVF, and that is wrong. If it has to be applied to only those who those have necessity. If they have any medical condition or medical problem, then only they should opt, right? And when I was discussing the stem cells, I told you, like in US or in some countries, so they're aborting embryos for the sake of research, like they're for the money purpose. Some women, they used to abort the embryos. So that's why the stem cell research was banned in US for some time, to stop that illegal practice. Okay, that also it is unethical. So there's another thing is like, should this embryo research has to be banned? So, but banning will stop the scientific progress. Okay. Only thing is we have to practice the ethics. So finally, this is giving from some section of patients, they are like they are getting benefited by these techniques. But at the same time, some are misusing these techniques. So here, it is not the science which is bad, but the ethics. If we are not following the ethics, then that is bad. So we should practice science ethically. Then it is good. So there is no need to ban anything, but you have to follow some guidelines, some regulations to check this research. So India has become the medical tourism. Medical tourism means everybody, like medicine has become cheap in India. So we are able to perform very complicated surgeries, and the success rate is increased. So like that, so it is very costly in other countries, but it is cheaper compared to other countries. Therefore, from other countries, people are coming here and they are performing surgeries, and for even for the infertility treatment. Okay. So this artificial reproductive techniques, is a medical success story. So it is completely a success of medicine, advanced medicine. However, this has to be regulated by guidelines and laws, which are imposed by the government. So what is the purpose of these guidelines is to ensure the technologies are useful. It is used safely and responsibly. It is not misused and not unethical. However, whether these guidelines work, okay, whether they really serve, again a question mark. So in other countries, in UK, there is Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority Act. Okay, so this will check the main aim is to protect the welfare of the child. So even unborn. So theory means it should be the parents of the child who should be empowered to make the best decision for their child. Okay, so they are not just guardians, they have the right and they should be responsible to take any decision for their child. And an impersonal government body without a heart or a soul make the decisions, claiming that they are acting in the interest of the child. Okay, of course, the parents have the capacity or they have the right to decide. But again, there are some regulations. We cannot take decisions as we wish. Then there are some differences between US and UK. Interestingly, the US has not found it necessary to pass a federal law for regulation of IVF. And they are doing fine. Okay, so there is no such regulations or guidelines for the IVF in US. Then doctors versus politicians. So nowadays, like lawmakers, they don't know anything about medicine. Okay, they will just pass the laws, but that may not be suitable for the medical practice. So doctors, they should take the advices or recommendations of the doctor, and they should give the doctors to make medical decisions. In USA, they will actually do this practice. So the doctors will decide what to do. Of course, they will have the legal hurdles also. They will be in check in the, like the politicians, or here the not politicians, the lawmakers will check. They will keep some guidelines on the doctors or any practicing authorities, whether the decisions they are taking correct or not. Okay, but the ultimate authority is to be given to the doctors so that they can take the correct decision or based on the condition. But whom we have to trust? So the lawmakers don't know medicine and doctors don't have powers. So it is again a discussion or the problem. So when we look for a global picture, so what is the remarkable about the regulations which govern art in each country is that they vary so widely. So every country has its own guidelines, and some have regulations, some don't have regulations. So they are very different. And the guidelines are arbitrary, and they are for the local political pressures only. They have prepared the laws, but not based on the scientific principles. So that is unfortunate. So law of unintended consequences. So in Spain, it is legal to put embryo in frozen storage, but it is illegal to destroy the embryo or to donate to the research. Like what for they are storing, that is one thing. It's fine to store, but they cannot donate to research or they cannot destroy. So what is the use of that embryo? If they are used, if the couples are used, then fine. If they are not using the embryo, so it's just a waste, right? So there are currently 50,000 embryos sitting unused in the frozen stage in Spain. Okay. So even the storage limit also is exceeding. So that is again a bad thing. And the law which is designed to protect the embryo, so ends up destroying the embryos in this practice. So once the storage limit gets exceeded, what they will do? They will throw off, right? It is neither used for research nor for the parents. So like that. And IVF laws and doctors. By forcing doctors to practice medicine as laid down by the whatever the laws which are designed by the bureaucrats, rather than applying their own judgment, we are ending up harming the patients. So here the bureaucrats are making the laws and the doctors has to follow. Even if the condition is against the law, the doctor cannot perform the particular procedure. But the doctors are trusted professionals. So doctors has to, because they are so qualified, they have to actually decide. They are better trusted to make life and death decision in the ICU. Therefore, Even for IVF also, the doctors has to be taken. It is not for everyone, but based on the medical conditions, they have to decide. So there is a useful regulation. So most doctors would agree that there is a need to regulate the practice of IVF so that all IVF clinics meet certain basic standards. So there should be common standards and every IVF clinic has to practice that. Need to protect infertile patients who are emotionally vulnerable and can get cheated easily by unsurplus doctors. So it's not bad thing to go for IVF if there is any fertility problem. But most of the couple, they are misled or they are not aware. There are myths, I told you, like there will be bed rest and it is a surgical procedure and it is very painful. Like that, there are many myths. So the couple will get frightened and they will go to some local doctor or someone. They will give treatments. They keep on taking the treatments and the age will get advanced. And they will be emotionally, financially drained and there will be no successful pregnancy. So therefore, the people has to get aware of what IVF and when they should go for IVF. They should go to a qualified doctor and there should be guidelines which are uniform for all IVF clinics. So the same thing, like bureaucrats, they do all the paperwork, everything, and there is no power to the doctor. So that is the thing which has to be changed to bring the advancements in the research and science. So then another one is how many number of embryos to transfer. So that is what the question we have already discussed. So that is still not perfect. So some laws say only 2. Okay. Because if one fails, at least another will be there. Okay. So does this make sense for a 43-year-old woman doing her 5th IVF cycle? So if we keep more number of embryos, okay, for to increase the rate of success, we are increasing the embryos. But can the woman bear if every embryo is successful, can the woman bear the babies, weight of the babies? And okay, if everybody is born, like some give rise to 10 babies, they'll give birth. How they will, in some countries like India, where the government is not supporting. If we see in US or UK, in such countries, there will be government policies. They will take care of the people, of the citizens. Of course, because the population will be less in those countries. But in highly populated countries like India, there are no such government policies. Here, everybody has to earn for their own. In such cases, can a mere middle class couple or upper middle class people, can they afford to raise these many number of babies and that too in advanced age? Okay, so these are some practical problems. So therefore, the best answer is let the couple decide for themselves. Okay, they should be explained. The couple has to be explained by the doctor. Okay, these are the advantages and disadvantages. And the couple can decide how many number of embryos can be inserted. Right? So now in this technique, we can see this scenario, like we can have a genetic mother, biological mother, and social mother. So like that, here in this technique, we can see a like surrogate mother, biological mother, those are contributing. Sometimes if the sperms are not quality, so they can also use the donor sperms. So I think you might have seen the Wiki Donor movie. So in that they have explained, these are all practical things. Okay, the surrogacy, there are many movies also on surrogacy, all these things. So these are all like practical issues which are faced in the country, all over the world also. Then what is surrogacy? So surrogacy is again an issue. Again, who has the right, whether the biological mother or the surrogate mother? There are some issues also happened on this, like where the suppose the surrogate mother, she want the baby. Okay, so again, although there are paperwork, agreements, everything will be there, still there is an argument on these rights. So what happens if something goes wrong? Okay, will India become the surrogacy outsourcing capital of the world? Because in India, like because of the financial conditions, some women, they are ready to become surrogates. So uh, foreign couples like that. Okay, so in such cases, so this, it is sometimes illegally also they will perform. So I think some movie has also come on this. So the baby will have some disease. So that, what happens? Who will take care of the baby? The couple will, the biological parents will keep that baby with this woman. And this woman is already, the financial condition is poor. That's why she has to agree for the surrogacy for the sake of money. And again, how can she give the treatment to the baby? So all these are the practical issues. And are we exploiting the woman, poor woman, by hiring their wombs? So here we are not looking after the health of the woman, and not like that. Sometimes the woman will be forced by the family or someone or husband for the sake of money to rent her womb. Okay, so these are all some of the, and the woman has to undergo a lot of emotional, health, physical concerns. So these are the problems. So therefore, lot of regulations, a bill also has come, surrogacy bill has passed in the parliament recently. So the fact that rules vary so much from country to country, I told you, it changes. So what is the solution for all these things? Let the patient decide about their life and the family. And the doctor should be given the choice for to decide what is best for the family or for the patients. And don't follow the unethical practices. It should be legal. It should be under the guidelines and under the law. So there is a Haryana woman gives birth at 70. So these kind of cases also happen. So recently, just like they want their own baby. So that is one kind of thing in developing countries like India. I don't know about other countries, but they, they don't have the mindset of adopting or like that. They want their own child. So for that, they don't think of practical things and all these things. Simply, okay, nice technique has come, IVF. This is like becoming successful. So they are just going, they are not looking at their age and everything. So what happens is, it is not bad thing that they want to become parents at certain age, but this will impact the children. At the age of 70, what happens to the children? Okay, can they take care of the children? That is one thing. And the mutations, all these get accumulated, that will impact the health of the child. Not only the child, even the mother, she's already old. So again, they has to bear uh, the physical problems, all this will come. So this is again the world record, but in such cases, they are just misusing the IVF technique. Okay. There are three principles of medical ethics: autonomy, beneficence, and non-maleficence. So that means if everything is necessary, only then they should go for this techniques. So it became like a business, baby business. The correct word is, they are making the business out of this. So to make this IVF simplified, so it has to become low cost. So these are some of the what you call solutions. IVF has to be, the cost should be reduced, and the couples should get married young. They should get aware like about the complications of marriage in advanced age. Okay, 30 years, nowadays 30 years become common, but not like 40, 45, and then they have to plan for the children. That is risky. And don't copy the Western thing blindly, because every culture is having its own things, and our techniques are suitable for our culture. And that is because every country has its own regulations, it has own laws, so which abide the cultural conditions of that particular country. So it is blindly following the Western things is not correct. And IVF also need to be adopted to India. So we should have some indigenous companies which can produce, because now they have to procure the media, hormones, everything from other countries. They have to import. Now what happens? The cost will be more, and that cost will be in the, that is collected from the patient. So that's why the technique becomes more costlier. So if we keep some indigenous from Indian companies starts producing the media or other requirements, then the cost will be reduced and the technique will become cheaper. So low cost innovations are there, like minimal stimulation IVF and transport IVF and the satellite IVF. So these are some innovations which are low cost techniques of the IVF. Then another is intravaginal culture. So they use patient's vagina as an incubator. Here, instead of using the incubator, they are using the vagina itself as an incubator. No need of any expensive incubator or electric supply. So they will be under monitor. Okay. This can be made available in government hospitals in districts or like that in India, and they should be monitored continuously so that no need of again inserting back into the uterus, all these things. Here directly they are inserting and they are using this vagina as an incubator. Okay. So this is how the equipment looks like. So what society can do? So this include, like as I told, doctors, bureaucrats, lawmakers, patients, everybody, as well as the society also plays an important role. So infertility treatment should be a part of family planning and family welfare services, and should be covered by medical insurance, because infertility is a disease and needs a medical treatment. So therefore now no insurance I think covers this infertility treatment. So if that is covered, so it will be very useful for the patients. So, and it should be normalized. It is not a bad thing like to go for infertility treatments. So it should be normalized by the society. Okay, that is also a type of treatment which can be included in the family welfare or family planning as other techniques or other medications, right? So let's help eradicate ignorance. So mostly the problem arises from ignorance of the people in the society, and myths and long-term myths which are transmitted from generations. So as science students, or those we are practicing science, we should know what is the reason, and we should try to bring awareness among the society and eradicate the ignorance. Okay. So these are all some cartoons. Okay, finally, so this is about the in vitro fertilization and the regulations. So just I have discussed about the overall concept, like what are the regulations, laws, what are the ethical issues which are concerned, and So what are the techniques which are normally followed and what are the advanced techniques? So is it clear, or if you have any doubts, you can just ask. Are there any doubts? Is it clear?
For surrogacy and IVF, the technique is same, also. The techniques they follow is
Yeah,
same.
technique is same. But once
Okay.
the IVF is done, suppose a woman is having some anatomical problem. That means, see, some people will have low-lying uterus. They cannot bear the baby, right?
Okay.
So in such cases, that embryo cannot insert it back into the woman, and or if there is any implantation issues, implantation failures, or any
In,
health
in
conditions.
biological mother. Okay.
Yeah. So in
Okay.
such cases, they can opt for surrogacy.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. If there are no more doubts, I'm ending the class. Tomorrow we'll discuss another topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.